Hello, my monstrosities. Hello once again. Today I bring to you no more Mr. Nice Monster. I've been quite positive lately, been trying to be the nice guy about some of the changes, talk about how good they are for the game of Tyranids and all of that. But truthfully, that was me talking about the pros, but there have been some cons that need to be addressed from things that happened lately and have been an ongoing issue. I'm going to try to stick to one topic on here, but sometimes my brain tangents to other places. So we'll see how far I can stay on track with what today's topic is. The standardization. No, see, we're already losing it. Of Tyranids compared to other things in the game, mainly Space Marines. I'm tired of getting hit because of some Space Marine bullshit. Because our shit is just not equal. You'd be wondering why I'm starting with Synaptic Nexus, and yes, the first thing that will probably come to your mind is how Reinforced Hive node got hit the same way that Armor of Contempt got hit. Instead of just staying -1 AP for the entire phase, it is until the attacking unit is done hitting you. Okay? Now, that's something that I think did need to be addressed a little bit because it's kind of ridiculous that every single color of Space Marine just could make a unit -1 AP. And here comes slight tangent on the side, thing number one, of why I kind of dislike, I just want to say mildly dislike. It's more so when people try to use Math Hammer as a gotcha for something that I said. Uh, and if my numbers are completely off, that's fine. But this is a part of playing the game. Armor of Contempt is a thing that you had to factor in that a lot of the Math Hammer gotchas that get thrown at me don't factor in. What do I mean by that? Well, quite frankly, it's one of those stupid things that is like, oh, but you suggest this weapon over here, but can't you see that this weapon helps me to kill guardsmen, terminators, and now I do a whole 4 wounds to a Catan? And I'm like, realistically, the unit that you're using, why are you over there with guardsmen, and why are you over there with Catan? Anything doesn't need the attention of guardsmen because they're guardsmen. Sure, let's talk about the Terminator numbers, and if they can also touch a Catan, that's cool, but when you do this Math Hammer thing, I don't care if it has a profile into everything. You have to stop and wonder what you're putting your thing into. I don't want to throw my Exocrine into guardsmen when I don't need to. I don't care how many they kill. And then further on to the Math Hammer fact of that aspect, it's forgetting things that your opponent will still play the game. Some of the profile things that get thrown at me, it's, oh, but this, that, whatever. Like, okay, but what if your opponent does Art as Nails from Orcs? What if your opponent is probably playing something that has an Armor of Contempt-like thing? What if they do that? Your numbers get skewed a lot. Your opponent isn't just going to let you hit them, which is kind of one of the things that I was trying to reiterate with Subterranean Assault. And I'm sorry so many people have hit the fuck around and find out stage of that your opponent won't just let you deploy 3 snakes in their deployment zone and then charge you with a Harspex. It kind of just doesn't happen that way. Now, if it does, you're winning that game anyway, but... So there's that. So while every flavor of Space Marine made the game skew a different way because you have to consider Armor of Contempt on top of Benefit of Cover, every single flavor of Power Armor wearer means that they essentially are taking down the AP of attacks by 2. Had to factor that in constantly. Meanwhile, instead of just nerfing Armor of Contempt, they said, hey, everybody that has to do that has access to something like that, you gotta come down too. So Votan has something like that, gotta come down. Synaptic Nexus, you got something like that, you gotta come down. And realistically, the first irritation with that is that we don't have nearly the flexibility with Synaptic Nexus as you do with Gladius Task Force, which is evident, or not just Gladius Task Force, but just plain Space Marines, which is evident by everybody going to Gladius Task Force. Meanwhile, Synaptic Nexus, our best builds have been, can I take 3 Norns, or can I take 3 bricks of Tyrant Guard? Kind of stops there. So that's annoyance number one, and again, this is reaching back, but the topic, just to reiterate before I go on to the next one, is standardization. Standardization. Man, I'm going to have to change the topic if I can't do it on this take, apparently. If I can't say it this go around. Might have to change what we're saying that. But the cookie cutterisms of 40k makes things like the weird factions a little less weird when they should be good at something. And quite frankly, with all the things happening around the game right now, it's harder to identify what Tyranids are good at besides scoring points, which, well, uh, so many things like to score points, and you can only score points if you're alive. And if you're not alive to get there because everybody has now figured out how to kill T11 with no invuln, because they need the tech for knights, or they figured out, hey, we can kill infantry, and we don't have the best infantry on a lot of those regards. You know, do what you do. But coming back to the next plot point of you can't just copy it one for one with the same restrictions. The restrictions need to change. Synaptic Nexus has the same restriction as Gladius Task Force. You get to choose a thing to do for most of the units in your army, and you can choose to do each one once per battle. Gladius Task Force, a lot of the Space Marine flavors default to Gladius Task Force because it's good. Let's compare what you get. For one turn in Synaptic Nexus, if you're in Synapse range, you get a 5-up invuln save. That means, congratulations! No matter what you're playing, you have a 33% chance on that die roll to make a save. Okay? Thing number one over here, Devastator Doctrine. Also, my other gripe with Gladius, I know that this goes far back. I still don't understand why Assault is an Assault and Devastator is Assault. What I mean by that, Devastator Doctrine. You get Advance and Shoot, which is Assault, for your entire army. Adeptus Astartes units from your army. Everybody gets it. And we've seen that Advance and Shoot causes issues time and time again. Bringers of Flame looking at you. Even Star Shatter Arsenal, people just like to say that Assault is the thing that breaks the camel's back. There's more to it, but as you can tell, it's pretty good. And Gladius, meaning every Space Marine flavor, can do this. Yeah, at least one turn. You get just straight up orc type shenanigans, which is kind of why they did what they did with Synaptic Nexus, where I once again will remind everybody they just took the WA and broke it out. 5-up invuln, advance and charge, better at melee. But coming to Surge and Vitality, we don't get advance and charge. We get +1 to advance and charge rolls. And the only thing in our army that can advance and charge outside of Vanguard Onslaught is Hormagaunts. And again, within Synapse range. Coming over to Gladius, we're going to skip over to Assault Doctrine just because your entire army gets to declare charge in a turn and with they advance. So that's much different than +1 to advance and +1 to charge rolls. Okay, cool. Then next up we have +1 to hit for melee attacks. Goaded to slaughter. How about Tactical Doctrine? You get fallback, shoot, and charge. Now, to GW's credit a little bit here, you do have access to that with Override Instincts in Synaptic Nexus. One command point, you can make it so that one unit can do that. In Gladius Task Force, you can make it so that all of your units can do that, which is just distinctly better. So, to recap, 33% chance to live, +1 movement for most things in the army, +1 to hit to melee. Oops, we're not a melee army. We don't get the things that melee armies do, such as speed and things to do once you get in melee and maybe take less damage. Now, you would say we finally got a unit that can do all of that here in Synaptic Nexus with the hyper-adapted Raveners, attaching to Raveners. And I'd say this is why I tell some of you all, you don't have to just be okay with it being mildly okay. That stops you from getting data sheets like the Raveners because you go, oh, my melee warriors that I haven't used in 15 lists the past 3 months are actually a little bit better. You know, it's okay to recognize that something that is just okay is maybe not as okay. You haven't taken them for a reason. Going to the enhancements. What do we have? Power of the Hive Mind, 10 points. Tyranid Psyker model only improved the strength and AP characteristic of psychic weapons equipped by the bearer by 1. Sounds pretty good. Spoiler alert, it can go on one thing. The Neuro Tyrant, you get a 18-inch 622 flamer, which for 10 points isn't that bad. But I don't like being fooled into thinking that Tyranid Psyker model only. This has more applications than literally just one model. As far as a, you know, yeah, I was going to say hyper-adapted Raveners maybe now because they have a flamer. Nope, that's right, they're not Psychers. So there's that. Artificer Armor, 10 points. The bear has a safe characteristic of 2 up and a feel no pain of a 5 up. Now, that does sound a lot better, but I will give some more credit here. This has to go on a Space Marine, right? It has to go on a little guy. It's whatever, okay? It's not like you can put this on a Dreadnought for anything. Like you can, the bulkiest thing you can put this on is probably a flavor of Terminator. Yeah, like where I guess a Raven Wing Command Squad maybe. But you know we're not looking at okay I could possibly put this on a Hive Tyrant even though he already has a 2-up save. 5 up feel no pain, give that to a Hive Tyrant. Can't say that. It's not the same equivalency there. So for 10 points to 10 points, that's fine. Next, coming back over here to Synaptic Nexus, we have Psychostatic Disruption. For 30 points, you get can't set up within 12 inches. In addition, once per battle round during the first or second battle round, if your opponent tries to drop something in from strategic reserves, the bear can use this enhancement. Roll 1d6 on a 4-up. That enemy can't arrive this turn. That's pretty decent. 30 points I think is still too steep. Excuse me. But, you know, it's not the worst. It's not the worst. 15 points with the Honor Vehement. Adeptus Astartes model only. Add 1 to the attacks and strength characteristic of the bear's melee weapons. While the bear is in assault, plus 2 to the attacks and strength characteristic of the bear's melee weapons instead. And this is where I will start to complain. It's nice that the enhancements are relevant to the detachment over here in Gladius, where it's like, alright, you get something, and then if you're in one of the doctrines, it gets better. Now, I'm not saying that that's the end-all, be-all to the design of something like this, but it would have been nice if Psychostatic Disruption said something like, you can't set up within 12, and if you are within, if this unit is within Synaptic Augmentation, your opponent can't set up within 24 or something. I don't know. Probably 18. 24 is a lot, but something like that. The roll of 4-up, so 50% chance on only the first or second battle round, you know, whatever. But, admittedly, it does fuck the plan if it happens. Not too many things in the game have turn 1 come in from reserves, but I guess it's relevant enough. Second battle round is where you look, alright, I have a 50% chance to really skew the math on what you want to do. Synaptic Control, 20 points, Tyranid Synapse model only. Also, here's the thing about the things that they go on to. Psychostatic Disruption, fine, I don't really care where that has to get placed, but Synaptic Control, I do a bit. Only because we have okay enhancements, we don't have great places to put them. So, let's go to Synaptic Control. Each time an attack is allocated to the bear, -1 from the damage characteristic of that attack. That's pretty baller, right? That's pretty good. The best thing you can put this on is Turvy. Turvy is 175 points, and effectively kind of not great if you aren't bringing another 120 points worth of Termagants at the bare minimum, right? At the bare minimum, you probably should bring 20 Termies to make Turvy feel better. So this isn't just 20 points there, this is 140 points. Or, you could put this on a Hive Tyrant that has 10 wounds, it might help out every now and again. Right, that's where you can put that. And then finally, the Dirge Shard of Cars, 15 points. Tyranid Synapse model only while an enemy unit is within 9 inches of the bearer. Worsen the unit's leadership characteristic by 1. This is fine. I wish that it would have made you deathly beware on top of that. If they are below starting strength, you get to make your opponent take a battle shock test. But coming back over to Gladius Task Force to wrap up these last two. Adept of the Codex, 20 points, Captain model only at the start of your command phase. If the bear is on the battlefield, instead of selecting a combat doctrine to be active for your army, you can select the tactical doctrine. If you do, until the start of your next command phase, that combat doctrine is active for the bear's unit only, even if you have already selected that to be active once per game, right, already. which, again, for tactical, that means you get access to fallback, shoot, and charge. That's okay, that's cute. And fire discipline, 25 points. Adeptus Astartes model only while the bearer is leading the unit. Ranged weapons equipped by models in that unit have sustained hits 1. In addition, while the bearer's unit is under the effects of Devastator, you can reroll advanced rolls made for it. Devastator is Assault. Just as a reminder, advance and shoot. So advance and shoot, sustained hits 1. And, sustained hits 1, you go, alright, just make the 6s. You are playing Space Marine, so your army rule is pick a target, you get reroll hits against it. And if you play in Gladius, Task Force, Ultramarines, +1 to wound against it. And that's where we come back over here to just things are not created equal. Tyranids, Synaptic, you get +1 strength. That's cute, that's cool. You get Shadow in the Warp. Hopefully your opponent fails the test. Some armies that's really handy against. Some armies it probably won't happen, especially in the mirror match where cough, Space Marines have decent leadership. That's kind of one of their things. That's kind of where you go on it, right? You also can make more Battle Shock tests yourself with 3d6 instead of 2d6. Fine. Now, coming back to more complaining, the stratagems, even then, Armor of Contempt we already talked about versus Reinforced Hive note, Smothering Shadow. I hope that somebody failed Battle Shock within a foot of my Synaptic unit so I can roll some dice and hopefully you take some mortal wounds. We look at something like Adaptive Strategy, that just gets you to switch the doctrine. We have the same thing with Imperative Dominance where you can switch the imperative. Coming back to only End Death does duty and 2 command points. That's the steepest one out of everything here, but you get a guaranteed fight on death for an Adeptus Astartes unit. It doesn't have to be infantry only, none of that shenanigans. Anybody, until the end of phase, each time a model in your unit is destroyed, if that model has not fought this phase, do not remove it from play, can fight after the attacking unit has finished making its attacks. No dice roll needed. So that's why it's 2 command points. Storm of Fire, your shooting phase. You get Ignore Cover for an Adeptus Astartes unit. Again, blanket any unit, because this is the index detachment and it's supposed to cover everything I understand. But you get Ignore Cover, and you get Devastator. If you're in Devastator, you get +1 AP. Over here, you can make your Synapse go out 3 more inches. Oh boy, I'm excited. Irresistible Will. Now, this is something that I will give, again, the caveat that GW tried with Irresistible Will. If you use a Synapse unit to target something within 2 feet of it, everything within 6 inches of your Synapse unit gets reroll hit rolls of 1 and reroll wound rolls of 1 into that target. For the phase, so it's not quite as good as Oath, but they tried. It's fine. And Override Instinct, we talked about fallback, shoot, and charge. Finish it off over here with Gladius. Honor the chapter. You get Lance. Lance. Just +1 to wound if you charge for something. And if you're in Assault, you get +1 AP. That's pretty good. So remember how we're trying to make this a melee detachment? Where, +1 to advance or charge, +1 to hit in melee. We're talking Synapse, which now has the buff that you didn't get initially, +1 strength for melee attacks, all that jazz. This is trying to be a melee detachment for the most part. Yeah, it'd be nice if we got Lance. That'd be pretty cool. That'd be pretty cute. In Squad Tactics, you get a reactive move. We know how that does. Now, admittedly, not for everybody, just for infantry and mounted. Cool. So, comparisons just straight to side, you understand now why everybody will take Gladius if their own detachments are failing. Dark Angels, welcome on down to Gladius. Space Wolves, here you are with Gladius. Everybody, come to Gladius. Gladius has a good home for you because it is a good suite of things. Meanwhile, for a faction that doesn't have too many melee units, because of various issues, whether it's lacking AP, maybe it's because they don't do anything once they make contact. Maybe it's because they have a tough time making contact because of their movement characteristic and their save being 3s and 4s. We don't have too many 2s outside of Hive, Tyrants, and Norns. Turvy and Tyrant effects. I think that's everybody. Maybe I'm missing 1 or 2 more. But yeah, I guess Old One Eye and the Carnifexes. But there's that as well. Carnifexes including the Screamer Killer. But again, all of ours go pop for several reasons. You get to see them on the board. You don't really get as much hiding behind terrain. It's kind of hard to fit so many monsters behind a thing. And even then, to the infantry front, you say, well, Infantry can hide behind things. We don't have melee infantry that will benefit from Synaptic Nexus like that. Hormagaunts are cool. Alright, they will benefit. Objectively, they are probably the best ones to benefit out of our melee units that are infantry. Brewlord Genestealers already have a 5 up invuln, already hit on 2s. That's cute, that's cool. Melee warriors are melee warriors. 6 inches, I will continue to go, hey, here's a spoiler, they just aren't that good this edition. Hyper Adapted Raveners, finally, we have something to tie Synaptic Nexus together. Compare that to just doing whatever the fuck you want with whatever you want in Gladius Task Force. Now, that is main detachment thing. As you can see, I have a lot of tabs talking about data sheets that I would like to kind of complain about too. The thing that recently happened, more recently, before we get to the big one, is Exocrines went up 5 points. Exocrines went up 5, and I've said for the longest time that is just our Predator Destructor. And before you get to complaining about, oh my god, but my thing, I got shot by an Exocrine and died. Yeah, here's the thing, right? It does turn on reroll hit rolls of 1 for our range, but this is our only fucking gun. Zoes are starting to get some time in the sun, truly, because, spoiler, Vanguard Onslaught is nice to move them around, but Vanguard Onslaught previously had other issues as well that might get fixed with the inclusion of, once again, hyper-adapted Raveners. And then you look at Subterranean Assault. They are now getting movement again because they are movement 5. Yeah, they move slow as shit, and they have to make the 4 up or they fucking die. So, the only real gun that we have is the Exocrine because it has 36 inches. You could say the Maleceptor, it has 18 inches, it has to get there first. Exocrine, D6 plus 3, we love it. Blast, heavy, hitting on 3s, 9-3-3. We do like an Exocrine around here, but why is this annoying for me? Because the Predator Destructor is not just the only gun that your army has access to in Space Marines. It is one of the guns that you can take. You can also take Vindicators, Predator Annihilators, any form of Dreadnought, really, maybe not, Ballistas, Gunships, Thunderstorm Speeders of whatever fucking flavor, Repulsor Executioner, whatever the fuck, probably has more guns than we have access to realistically bringing an Exocrine, and Tyranids. That's why we bring the Exocrine, because it's the only gun really worth a damn across the board for most of our needs. Why did I say that these are comparable? Well, look at this. The Predator Destructor also has a gun that is 9, strength 9, damage 3. Admittedly, the AP is different, but if you're into infantry, it goes to AP 2 with Destructor. Less attacks, you get 4 attacks, so you always get the minimum that you get over here with the Exocrine. Sometimes you roll the 1, sometimes you roll the 6, so you get 9 shots. Blast makes it even more. Predator Autocannon does have rapid fire too, so you can get that up to 6, hitting on 3s. But SpaghettiOs, things change. You are playing, once again, Space Marines, so Oath of Moment means you can reroll and possibly get +1 to wound. This also means that this Predator Destructor doesn't just get tied up with one blast weapon. So if something touches it, you can still fire your guns, because they are not blast. Using big guns never tire. Meanwhile, that does not exist for our Exocrine in any shape, way, or form. And what else happens? What if somebody tries to take out the Exocrine? 3-up save? We're not playing Invasion Fleet all the time. This is just across the board things. Across the board, your Predator Destructor will always have access to Armor of Contempt in almost every fucking detachment. I think there's like one Space Marine detachment that does not have Armor of Contempt. So your Predator Destructor always has access to Armor of Contempt. It also has smoke, so it can always use smoke to be -1 hit. Yeah, you can always have something better to keep your Predator Destructor alive, and if it gets tied up where it's really needed, you can use Tank Shock because it is a vehicle. So, besides the fact that you can split fire, pop smoke, Armor of Contempt to keep it alive, 2 things to keep it alive, and Tank Shock to maybe just make the game progress a little bit more, it has 10 inches of movement compared to 8 on the Exocrine. Use the model for the footprint. We have 120 by 92mm base. You could take whatever you want on that. Exocrine turns on the other Exocrine, realistically, but it also can turn on Zoes. Predator Destructor is here to do a job. That's fine. It's dandy. All that to say that it's been a lot more comparable for a long time, but you just don't also have a las cannon or hunter killer missile to follow that up. I'm sorry, two las cannons. That's right. To follow that up if need be. If you also need to pop something big, you can do that. You can try, rather. It won't guaranteed happen, but damn, it's a lot better to try than to really hope that you brought 195 points now for lethal hits to do that. So, that's that complaint over there. Moving on to the next one. The standardization. Yeah, we're going to have to just change it. Can't do it. Swarmlord and Hive Tyrant. Now, they came down in points. That's cute. But, I don't know how to tell you this. Losing 5 command points because some shit that Rabote Guilliman and possibly Marnius Calgar, don't know why this changed on me, sorry. Marnius Calgar were doing some bullshit over there. Swarmlord and Hive Tyrant aren't quite equivalent to Rabute and Calgar. They just aren't. So now, Calgar can't give the 1 command point because he has to be your warlord to get it. So if you bring Rabute, he has to bring your warlord. So you scratch that off. That's fine. Hive Tyrant, however, this is another turbo. They really just made the Hive Tyrants rips of kind of everybody, and we're getting there. I guess. I hope. Right. So Hive Tyrant, they're like, that's too much command points coming out of Ultramarines, but, that looks close to what Tyranids have been doing. I know Tyranids haven't won, like, a major or continued to win super majors for these last 2 years, but I feel that they need to get hit. But come on, guys, let's be fair. If we hit them, we have to bring down their points. Let's bring down their points to the exact same chassis, more or less. And I guess before I get to that point, Swarmy, 220 points for a Vect Aura that you have to be the Warlord for. So, whatever, right? We don't have a Supreme Commander, so you can do whatever fuck you want, but realistically, lore-wise, if Swarmy's on the field, it'll probably be your commander. Hive Commander also gives you 1 command point. Bringing both of them, Swarmy and Hive Tyrant, you can get some command points. Hive Tyrant, once per battle round now. Within a foot, if somebody tries to use a stratagem, you can reduce the cost by 1 command point for your Tyranids, right? That's cool. You also get access to Assault and Lethal. So, for the low cost of 195 points, cough cough, a 10th of your army list, you can do the Gladius thing, kind of. You can make it so that things within 6 inches get advanced and shoot. But again, going back to that aspect, what do I want to shoot? Oh, only my Exocrine, really? Is the only real gun in this army, except, of course, now Zoe's to an extent, but not a high extent because of other things in the game. Remember when I talked about how our monsters will lose out for Imperial Knight bullshit? Well, we're going to lose out on Zoe's because they are 3 wound and die, and people are bringing Forge Fiends because, again, the forces of chaos get to take those little rascals. So they will completely demolish that unit. And also them being strength 10 on those shots will outshoot our Exocrines more often than not. Meanwhile, our Exocrines are strength 9, looking at T10 with a 5 up info and 3 3 up save for the Forge Fiends that way. But skipping ahead, they're not quite there. Hive Tyrant isn't quite there, and Swarmlord isn't quite there to match up to Rabute Guilliman and Marnius Calgar. And then you look at who can be taken with them to make them last a little bit longer. Calgar, has the Victor's honor guard, but can also famously be taken with a company of heroes, while a character model is leading this unit, -1 to wound. And if you got an ancient still in the unit, all of your shit gets +1 OC for another 105 points. Our Tyrant Guard, for 80 points, you get 3 models with T8, 3 up save, 4 wounds. Better hope that your opponent doesn't have a way to just put wounds through in any way. A 3 up save is, whatever. And Guardian Organism, while a character model is leading this unit, that character has a 5 up, feel no pain. Now, admittedly, more to the whole cookie cutter business, they put this on the Death Shroud, so they're a little less tanky, but Death Shroud are in Death Guard, so they have several other ways to survive besides that T7 on those bad boys. So, Tyrant Guard, 6 inches of movement. Company of Heroes, 6 inches of movement. Oh, but what if you can make that a little bit better? Because, well, you're playing almost said Astromotarm, Adeptus Astartes, where it doesn't just stop with, oh, how do I move around? I just gotta get around on my own. No, you're playing units that can get into transports, so they can survive on that one as well. Now, doesn't happen often with Calgar and Company of Heroes, last I've seen, but it is to say it can be done. Meanwhile, Tyrant Guard and Hive Tyrants, you gotta walk there. You gotta get there. And one of the things that would have kept us a little bit alive just got changed. Yes, the Psychophage, I'm gonna be real. After spending some more time on it, I don't dislike it, but I do think I'm back in the camp that this is a bit of a nerf. I'm not seeing too many lists or just straight up games into which spending another 110 points is worth the AP for melee, given our units have again more issues than just the AP in melee. So 110 points for a 125 point monster, looking at the horror specs, yeah, that's 235 points to probably not pick up 235 points worth of stuff, and your horror specs is probably getting killed right on the clapback. Very rarely do our things make it to the next combat. Looking at the same thing as far as Hormagaunts, let's go the cheaper route, 120 points. The best thing I've seen for that so far is Assimilation Swarm, making them lethal hits, so now they have AP2 with a bunch of attacks. That's pretty cool. I'd say that's starting to be worth it, but still I spent 110 points, and that's the problem with making things buffers. If you're going to make them a utility piece, they have to be cheap enough. So previously, it was at a good point value for a 6-up Feel No Pain aura that just kept your things like Tyrant Guard a little bit more alive. So that was cute, but again, we have to standardize, so you can't quite do that one. Then going to, remember when I said that chassis thing, where it's like, oh, they just are putting things over there. Well, most of the Demon Princes hover around Hive Tyrant profile. T10, 2-up save, 4-up invuln, 10 wounds. Then you look at the shit that Death Guard get. Why the fuck is this T12? Who knows? Why would I complain about that? Well, it also has lethal hits on everything that it wants to do. Has the same movement as us, so that's cool, but it's T12, again. And it doesn't stop there. If you're around infantry, it becomes lone op. And going to that whole cookie cutter thing, 195 points for the chassis because all the Demon Princes are 195 points. Same with their Hive Tyrant, 195 points. Winged Hive Tyrant, looking at a Winged Demon Prince, is 170, right? But Demon Prince also has the, hey, you can make something cheaper that we just lost out on the once per battle round. They gotta keep it all together. Quite frankly, the Hive Tyrant is a must. That's a need. Meanwhile, the Demon Prince of Nurgle is a want. Because you still have shit like Mortarion that can just help your entire army do things. You also have Miasma of Pestilence. While a Death Guard unit is within 6 inches of this model, it has the benefit of cover. That's cute, that's fine. Helps on damn near everything. If we want that, we have to bring Venom Throats. But again, it's 10th edition, so I'm not too remiss about the benefit of cover. It is to say that on top of having -1 command points and a semi-meaningful aura, they also still get lone up on something as far as a Demon Prince of Nurgle that has T12. Okay? And 10 wounds. Coming to the other ones that make a little bit more sense, look at that. The Demon Prince of Tzeentch, +1 move. It has another ranged weapon. I will say our ranged weapon options are different? It's better. It's better. Our ranged weapons are different, but our melee, if we take the ranged weapon, we lose out on. Meanwhile, Demon Prince of Tzeentch can just get fucking devastating wounds on melee weapons, still gets the lone up situation, and you say, hey, does not have the -1 command point cost for stratagems. You lose out on that over here, but you're playing fucking Thousand Suns, so you have Cabal of Sorcerers, into which you can just get the psychic phase. You can just do magic shit. So I think I'd take making a target reroll hit rolls of 1 or reroll entire hits versus against more than just 1 command point. I think that's what I would spend my command point on. Cough, cough, irresistible will anyway. right? Make a unit faster, just fucking doombolt somebody, or, make them take bonus AP. All of that is fine, while you don't also have make it cheaper. But infantry around you, including Scarable Terminators, that's probably the biggest one you're looking at, can have stealth. Again, we would get that out of Venom Thropes for 180 points. 180 points for the Demon Prince. 15 points cheaper, right? For the same chassis, one less or one more movement cheaper, 108 points to 195 cheaper. Don't get the, reduced cost, but you get loan up, give people stealth, and you can even do your sorcerer thing a little bit better. If Thousand Sun Psychers die around you, you can get up to +2 to your psychic test when casting for the Demon Prince of Tzeentch. Cool. Slaanesh, alright. We're also looking at another one that doesn't have the reduced cost stratagem thing. Oh, wait, SpaghettiOs. And this one, still get the loan up, right? 10 inches of movement, so 2 bonus on the move. But on top of that, excessive vigor, while a friendly Slaanesh unit doesn't just have to be infantry, is within 6 inches of this model. If that unit made a charge move this turn, +1 AP. Cool. And if this model is destroyed by a melee attack on a D6, 2 up, you get the fight on death. This is a side grade, I guess, but also about +1 AP is pretty damn good for a Slaanesh unit. So in Carnival of Excess, that also extends to bullshit, such as Keeper of Secrets and Shalaxi. But past that, you're playing, again, a better army role in the form of Thrill Seekers, where you can advance, fall back, shoot, and charge, do whatever the fuck you really want to do for the same points that you are paying for a Hive Tyrant. Looking at the Demon Prince of Khorne now. Hey, look at that. We got a little bit less things on the profile. Rapid Fire 1 on the Infernal Cannon is whatever. 2 inches bonus of movement, comparatively. 5 points more. But you get the blessings of fucking Khorne. So it turns out you can still just give your shit. Sustain, lethal, devastating wounds, fight on death, pile and consolidate, reroll the charge roll, all of that good bullshit. Loan up around infantry, devastating wounds if you charge, and look at that, we're right back to reducing the cost of stratagems. Yeah, that's 5 more points difference for all of the things you can do there. And to close it out, let's talk about the good old Heretic Astartes Demon Prince that now also has the loan up. Can, each time this model shoots or fights, reroll a hit roll and reroll 1 wound roll. It's whatever. Heretic Astartes Infantry get benefit of cover. We've seen this before. Same exact movement, but would you look at that, 30 points cheaper? It doesn't have reduce the cost of a stratagem. It does have Dark Pact, so you can just sustain or lethal whenever the fuck you feel like it. And with Demonic Allegiance, you can pick and choose how you want your Demon Prince to be better. Do you want bonus strength on the melee? Do you want more attacks at range? Do you want to be T11? Or do you want to move 10? So, all of this standardization, hopefully, there we go, finally got that one, and some would argue I still didn't say that, but that's fair. All of this copy and paste doesn't really help us out over here in Tyranids because our shit just does not do the same shit that other people do. Like I said, we don't have advance and charge outside of Vanguard Onslaught, Vanguard Invader units, and Hormagaunts. We can't just throw a fucking Hive Tyrant into the backlines to get some of those weapons popping. Now, admittedly, ours are twin-linked. I should give that much credit. And because it's Synapse, it's technically Strength 10. That's pretty cool. But, we don't. I would like for if everybody else is getting the same amount of points doing the same shit, higher toughness, and loan up. Yeah, I'd like loan up at the very least too. Incentivize me to take more infantry, and then hopefully we get better infantry. It's a good start with the hyper-adapted Raveners. It's a good start. But quite frankly, I would like if our Barbgaunts were kind of worth it a little bit more. Bricks of Pyrovores, they're on 80mm bases, so I can't vouch too hard for always taking the 3, and if we go that route, because it's hard to move, but even as far as them, let's see how much they move again. Yeah, I thought so. Just wanted to double check. 5 inches. So, it's a hard knock life for us, unfortunately, and we are going to continue to take hits because of the things that are going on. And that's a thing that I can't quite love. We don't have nearly the same things to keep us in the game. We are going to get popped. Our monsters are going to get popped all the way that, like I said, people are going to tech for Imperial Knights. All the same, and we're less survivable than them. We have less wounds. We don't have a stock standard invulnerable save. People are going to shoot our 3 wound models off the boards because Chaos is getting infantry out the ass. So, I'm sorry, Forge Fiends out the ass. Our infantry is going to pay for that, and our good infantry, right? You look at Broodlord Gene Stealers, they're 2 wounds apiece. Blast, yeah, that's going to rip through them on their 5-up invuln. If you still want to believe in Warriors, guess what? They have a 4-up save, so yeah, still going to get blasted off the board, 3 wounds apiece. Hyper adapted Ravners are cool. I like them now. Thankfully, they have uppy downy if you attach them to the new regular Ravners. That didn't really change on the Ravner part, but they're also 3 wounds a pop and 4-up save. So they are also, if you accidentally if you can't fit 10 models on 40mm bases, let's double check that one. All right. Yeah, 10 models on 40mm bases into the perfect Spaghettios hidey spot. Yeah, you're going to lose these as well, thanks to all the things that people are bringing. Zoe's as well. So it's a little bit annoying how the game changes around. And again, I've been pretty positive because some of the things that GW is attempting is nice. I do like that they're getting a little bit more crazy with it. Subterranean Assault, hey, it's pretty cute. Again, just going to remind you, first off, everybody, if you've made it this far, thank you. Second off, tell your friend that's playing Subterranean Assault to stop cheating. I've seen way too many things still that I get it, it's new, and there's a lot of loopholes. Two of the main things I want to say about what I mean by that is your tunnel marker has to be within 1 inch of the burrower. I'm still seeing people think that it's 3 and 9 inches without referring back. It's 1 inch, and also I don't give a fuck whatever your argument is. There's no loophole. If your opponent has a model by the tunnel marker, it has to be removed. There's no, oh, it got set up from reserve, so technically it didn't move. No, it moved because anything getting set up from reserve has completed a normal move. That's how that completes. There's no way it doesn't say if your opponent does a normal move, advanced move, or charge move, remove the marker. It says if your opponent has made a unit move within 3 inches, remove it. It's impossible to get from point A to point B without moving. There's a rule for it. Stop cheating. The Moloch thing, WTC ruled as well that you can't get the mortals if you aren't using just straight up deep strike. If you use the tunnel markers, that one I don't care as much about. Figure that out with your TO and your friend, whoever wants you to have a good or a fun time. But quite frankly, we haven't been able to use the mortals out of strategic reserves anyway, so they just have to rewrite the Moloch rule pretty much altogether. That's just how that goes. So, say all this to say that it's nice to see that they've made some changes to Tyranids that are a little bit more in tune with the times. But I don't want them to stop here. If they can make it so that Space Marines are still just a force to be reckoned with across shit like Rabute, Guilliman, and Marnius Calgar. I get it. We released at the same time this edition, right? But we can make us just a little bit more than this is fine while the house is burning all around us, right? I would like to still. We're getting there. We're getting more flexibility on units that can be taken. Hyper adaptive Raveners and Raveners is a very good inclusion. Nor an emissary, but you're still looking at people taking Exocrines and Maleceptors and Tyrannifexes and relying on that. And even Tyrannifexes, probably not as much because you can't safely, you won't, with one Tyrannifex pop a Big Knight. It's now impossible to do that in a turn, and things, again, are going to be looking to pop Big Knights, so they will pop the Tyrannofex. So yeah, there's a lot of things that are going to be against us in the upcoming thing, and it's one step forward. I don't want to say two steps back because it might not be that serious, but it's at least one step back on some of the things like the Psychophage and the Hive Tyrant. The Psychophage, another thing that Waro, if you hear this part, thank you. And I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. That's the best I think I could get between looking up YouTube videos, how to pronounce the name. But pointed out that, yeah, this is another hit for Swarm list. The Psychophage change is another hit towards Swarms because you don't have any other fallbacks outside of that. If you want to take a Swarm or two and Assimilation Swarm, right? You have to rely on the Venom Thropes and maybe being around some Zoes, maybe, to get a 6-up invuln, but you lose up the 6-up Feel No Pain that would have benefited the Zoes to keep you alive and the Venom Thropes as well. So everything pops there. The Tyrant Guard, talked about that one. So while we have now a 110-point buffer for melee, you lose out on really two different but the same styles of list that we were doing, either Swarm or Tyrant Guard spam. Now is just a lot harder to implement because of the change to a unit that was fairly pointed and did a thing. I would have just liked it to be a movement change, like moving the Psychophage. I do really like that it's now movement 12 for whatever reason, but I would have liked if that would have been the only change, and instead I think I agree with people, I would have taken the AP on the Screamer Killer instead. The Battle Shock is nice. It helps with specifically Neurolictor shenanigans for +1 wound, so I can't even wholeheartedly say that. I think the ideal thing for me would have been Feeding Frenzy being the thing that gives AP. So in the shooting phase, you still get the new rule with the Psychophage, but you also have the 6-up Feel No Pain aura. I think that would then give it a worth 110 to 100 and hell, maybe even 30 points to that extent. But yeah, that's all on this rant. It's not too terribly passionate. It's hot. Sorry. But yeah, I want GW to really consider some of the changes. Kind of a thing that not just because they're the same chassis and profile doesn't mean you get the same thing out of them when you factor in the things that the army does as a whole. So yeah, if you like the video, like it. Got a comment from me, comment. And until next time, peace out, my monstrosities.